Here's something most doctors won't tell you at your next checkup. The first 60 minutes after you wake up might be the most important hour for managing your diabetes all day long. Think about it. You've probably been tracking your numbers, taking your medications, watching what you eat. But are you paying attention to what happens in those critical morning minutes before you even have breakfast? If you're over 50 and dealing with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, this matters more than you might realize. Your body goes through some pretty intense changes while you sleep, and how you respond when you first wake up can either set you up for steady blood sugar all day or send you on a roller coaster ride that leaves you exhausted by noon. I'm going to walk you through 3 specific morning strategies that research suggests can help stabilize your glucose levels before you even sit down to eat. These aren't complicated medical procedures or expensive supplements. They're simple actions you can start tomorrow morning. And here's the thing, the third one might actually surprise you because most people do it completely backward. Let me start by asking you something. When you wake up tomorrow morning, what's the very first thing you're going to reach for? Your phone? The coffee maker? Maybe you head straight to the bathroom and then start your day. What if I told you that one simple change to that morning sequence could influence your blood sugar numbers for the next 12 hours? Let's talk about the first strategy, and this one revolves around what you put into your body before anything else touches your lips. Your body loses a significant amount of fluid overnight. You breathe out moisture with every exhale. You perspire even when you don't realize it. By the time your alarm goes off, you're operating in a mild deficit. Now, for someone without diabetes, this isn't a huge deal. But when you have elevated glucose, something interesting happens. That sugar in your bloodstream becomes more concentrated when you're dehydrated. Kind of like how orange juice tastes stronger if you forget to add enough water to the concentrate. Research indicates that people with diabetes who drink water shortly after waking may see their fasting glucose numbers improve compared to those who skip this step. We're talking about plain water here, nothing fancy. Not coffee yet, not juice, definitely not soda, just water. Here's why this matters for your specific health concerns as someone over 50. When your blood has adequate fluid volume, your kidneys can function more efficiently. For those of us managing diabetes, our kidneys are already working overtime trying to filter excess glucose. When you add dehydration to the mix, you're making their job even harder. Over time, this extra strain can contribute to kidney problems, which, let's be honest, is something you definitely want to avoid. There's another benefit that doesn't get talked about enough. Proper hydration first thing in the morning may help with something called insulin sensitivity. That's basically how well your cells respond when insulin knocks on the door trying to deliver glucose for energy. When you're even mildly dehydrated, some evidence suggests your cells become a bit more resistant, meaning your body has to work harder to manage the same amount of sugar. So how much are we talking about? Most health professionals recommend starting with about 16 ounces, that's roughly 2 standard glasses, within the first half hour of waking up. Some of you might be thinking that sounds like a lot, especially if you're not used to drinking water first thing. You can start smaller, maybe 1 glass, and work your way up over a couple of weeks. Room temperature or slightly warm water tends to be easier on your system than ice cold, particularly if you have any digestive sensitivities. Some people like to add a squeeze of fresh lemon, which is fine as long as you're not adding sugar or artificial sweeteners. The lemon adds a bit of vitamin C and makes it more interesting to drink, but the real benefit comes from the water itself. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Won't drinking all that water make me run to the bathroom constantly? Initially, maybe a bit more than usual, but your body adjusts pretty quickly. And honestly, frequent urination is often a sign that your blood sugar is running high anyway. As your glucose control improves, you might actually notice you're not making quite as many bathroom trips. One more thing about timing. Try to drink your water before you have coffee or tea. Both of these contain caffeine, which has mild diuretic properties, meaning they can actually increase fluid loss. If you drink water first, you're giving your body what it needs before introducing anything that might work against you. Give it at least 15 to 20 minutes between your water and your morning coffee. Let me tell you about Margaret, a patient I know who's 73. She started this simple habit 6 months ago after her doctor expressed concern about her kidney function tests. She was skeptical at first, thought it seemed too simple to make any real difference, but she committed to drinking 2 glasses of water every single morning before doing anything else. Within 3 months, her fasting blood sugar dropped by an average of 18 points and her kidney function markers stabilized. Her doctor was impressed enough to reduce one of her medications. That's the power of consistency with something this basic. Before we move on, let me give you an important disclaimer. If you have congestive heart failure or advanced kidney disease, and your doctor has you on fluid restrictions, you need to talk to them before changing how much you drink. For most people with diabetes, though, adequate hydration is safe and beneficial. Always check with your healthcare provider if you're unsure. All right, you've got your water in, your cells are starting to perk up, your blood volume is improving, and your kidneys are getting the support they need to do their job. Now it's time to talk about the second morning habit, and this one involves getting your body moving in a very specific way. Stay with me here, because this might challenge what you've heard before about exercise and diabetes. Most people think about exercise as something you do later in the day, maybe after work or in the afternoon when you have more energy. But there's something special about moving your body in the morning, particularly in the first hour or two after you wake up, that can have a significant impact on your blood sugar throughout the entire day. When you've been sleeping for 6 to 8 hours, your muscles are essentially in rest mode. They're not pulling glucose out of your bloodstream for energy because, well, you haven't asked them to do anything yet. Meanwhile, your liver has been busy overnight releasing stored glucose to keep your brain and vital organs running. For people with diabetes, this overnight glucose release, sometimes called the dawn phenomenon, often overshoots what your body actually needs. The result? You wake up with higher fasting blood sugar than you'd like, even though you haven't eaten anything since dinner the night before. Here's where morning movement comes in. When you engage your muscles early in the day, even gently, they start pulling glucose directly from your blood for fuel. The beautiful thing about this is that muscles can do this through a pathway that doesn't depend entirely on insulin. That means even if your insulin resistance is high, physical activity can still help lower your blood sugar. Studies suggest that just 10 to 15 minutes of light to moderate activity after waking can help reduce those morning glucose spikes and may improve your insulin sensitivity for several hours afterward. We're not talking about running a 5K or doing an intense workout here. For most people over 50, especially those dealing with joint issues or neuropathy, gentle movement is not only sufficient but actually preferable. What does this look like in practical terms? Walking is probably the simplest and most accessible option. If weather permits and you feel safe, a short walk around your neighborhood right after you've had your morning water can work wonders. If you'd rather stay inside, walking in place, doing laps around your house, or even walking on a treadmill while watching the morning news all count. Some of you might prefer stretching or gentle yoga. There are plenty of chair-based exercises if standing for extended periods is difficult. The key is consistency and getting your muscles engaged early rather than waiting until later in the day. Let me give you a specific example of what this might look like. After you drink your water, give yourself 5 minutes to fully wake up, use the bathroom, maybe splash some water on your face. Then spend 10 to 15 minutes doing your chosen activity. It could be as simple as walking slowly through each room of your house, doing some arm circles, gentle leg lifts while holding onto the kitchen counter for balance, or following a short senior-friendly exercise video on your tablet. The goal isn't to exhaust yourself or work up a major sweat. You're simply activating your muscles, getting your blood moving, and telling your body it's time to start using some of that stored glucose for energy, instead of letting it sit in your bloodstream causing problems. For those of you dealing with peripheral neuropathy, that numbness or tingling in your feet, morning movement can actually help with this over time. Gentle activity improves circulation to those small blood vessels and nerves in your extremities. Better blood flow means more oxygen and nutrients reaching damaged nerves, which may help slow progression and reduce discomfort. There's also a mental health component here that doesn't get enough attention. People living with diabetes often deal with anxiety about their numbers, stress about complications, and sometimes depression related to the chronic nature of the condition. Morning physical activity has been shown to improve mood and reduce anxiety, partly by triggering the release of endorphins and other feel-good brain chemicals. Starting your day with even a small win, like completing a 10-minute walk, can set a positive tone that carries through the rest of your day. Now, a word of caution: if you take insulin or certain diabetes medications like sulfonylureas, morning exercise can potentially drop your blood sugar too much, especially if you haven't eaten yet. This is something you absolutely need to discuss with your doctor. They may need to adjust your medication timing or dosage. Always check your blood sugar before exercising, and if it's below 70 or you feel shaky, lightheaded, or weak, have a small snack first and wait until your numbers stabilize. Also, if you have severe neuropathy, recent foot ulcers, uncontrolled high blood pressure, or a history of heart problems, get medical clearance before starting any new exercise routine. Your safety comes first, always. Let me share something encouraging. A gentleman I know named Robert, age 68, started walking around his backyard for just 12 minutes every morning after his diagnosis with type 2 diabetes. He wasn't thrilled about it at first, called it his medicine walk. But after about 6 weeks, he noticed something interesting. His morning blood sugar readings, which used to hover around 170, started coming down into the 130s. His doctor noticed the improvement in his A1C test and told him whatever he was doing, keep doing it. 2 years later, Robert still does his morning walk, rain or shine, and his diabetes is well controlled with minimal medication. He also lost 15 pounds without really trying because the habit naturally led to other healthy choices throughout the day. The consistency is what makes this work. Doing it once or twice won't show you much, but make it part of your morning routine for several weeks, and you'll likely start seeing the numbers change. Track your fasting glucose before and after your morning activity for a couple of weeks so you can see the pattern for yourself. Most people find that pretty motivating. All right, you've hydrated, you've moved your body, and now it's time to eat. This is where the third morning habit comes in, and this one might be the most important of all, because what you eat for breakfast can literally make or break your blood sugar control for the entire day. Let me paint you a picture. You wake up, you feel hungry, and you reach for what seems like a reasonable breakfast. Maybe it's a bowl of cereal with milk, some toast with jam, or a bagel with cream cheese. Perhaps you grab a store-bought muffin and a glass of orange juice. These all sound fairly normal, right? Maybe even healthy? Here's the problem. All of those options are dominated by carbohydrates with very little fiber, protein, or healthy fat to slow down how quickly they turn into sugar in your bloodstream. What happens next is predictable. Your blood sugar spikes sharply within an hour of eating. Your pancreas scrambles to release insulin to deal with the surge. Then, a couple of hours later, your blood sugar crashes, leaving you tired, foggy, and hungry again, probably reaching for a mid-morning snack that starts the whole cycle over. For someone managing diabetes, especially after age 50, when your metabolism naturally slows down and insulin resistance tends to increase, this kind of breakfast is setting you up for failure before your day really begins. So, what's the alternative? A breakfast that combines 3 key elements: fiber, protein, and healthy fats in the right proportions. Let's start with fiber, because this is probably the most underrated nutrient when it comes to blood sugar management. Fiber, particularly the soluble kind found in foods like oats, beans, chia seeds, and certain fruits, does something remarkable in your digestive system. It forms a thick, gel-like substance that slows down how quickly food moves through your stomach and small intestine. This means the carbohydrates you eat get broken down and absorbed much more gradually, leading to a gentler, steadier rise in blood sugar instead of a sharp spike. Research consistently shows that people who eat high-fiber breakfasts tend to have better blood sugar control throughout the morning, and often into the afternoon. We're talking about aiming for at least 7 to 10 grams of fiber in your morning meal. To put that in perspective, a slice of white bread has less than 1 gram of fiber, while a cup of cooked oatmeal has about 4 grams, and a couple tablespoons of chia seeds add another 5 grams. Now let's talk about protein. Protein serves multiple purposes in your breakfast. First, it slows digestion even further, working alongside fiber to prevent rapid glucose absorption. Second, it helps you feel satisfied for longer, reducing the likelihood you'll be hunting for snacks an hour later. Third, protein helps preserve muscle mass, which becomes increasingly important after 50 when we naturally start losing muscle if we're not actively working to maintain it. And remember, muscle is metabolically active tissue that helps use up glucose. Good breakfast protein sources for someone managing diabetes include eggs, which are nutrient-dense and versatile, Greek yogurt, which has roughly twice the protein of regular yogurt, cottage cheese, which is high in protein and calcium, nuts and seeds, which also provide healthy fats. And for those who prefer plant-based options, tofu scrambles or protein powders can work well. You want to aim for at least 15 to 20 grams of protein at breakfast. 2 eggs give you about 12 grams, a cup of Greek yogurt provides around 15 to 20 grams, and a quarter cup of almonds adds about 6 grams. The third component is healthy fats. Now, I know fat got a bad reputation for decades, and many of you probably grew up being told to avoid it. But research has evolved, and we now understand that certain fats are actually beneficial, especially for people with diabetes. Fats from sources like avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, and fatty fish like salmon help slow gastric emptying, which means food leaves your stomach more slowly and blood sugar rises more gradually. Healthy fats also help you absorb fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D, which plays a role in insulin function, and vitamin E, which has antioxidant properties that may help protect against some diabetes complications. Plus, fats make food taste better and more satisfying, which is important because you're more likely to stick with a breakfast routine if you actually enjoy eating it. A serving might look like half an avocado, a tablespoon of almond butter, a small handful of walnuts, or a drizzle of olive oil if you're making a savory breakfast. So what does all this look like on an actual plate? Let me give you some examples that hit all three targets. Option 1. A bowl of steel-cut oats cooked with water or unsweetened almond milk, topped with a tablespoon of ground flaxseed for extra fiber and omega-3 fatty acids, a handful of fresh blueberries for antioxidants, and a touch of natural sweetness, and a side of scrambled eggs, or a serving of Greek yogurt for protein. That combination gives you complex carbohydrates that digest slowly, plenty of fiber, solid protein, and healthy fats. Option 2. A vegetable omelet made with 2 or 3 eggs, loaded with spinach, tomatoes, mushrooms, and bell peppers, served with half a slice of whole grain toast, spread with mashed avocado. The eggs provide protein and healthy fats, the vegetables add fiber and nutrients without many calories or carbs, and the avocado brings additional healthy fats and fiber. Option 3. A smoothie made with unsweetened Greek yogurt or a scoop of plain protein powder, a handful of frozen berries, a tablespoon of chia seeds or ground flaxseed, a handful of fresh spinach, which you won't even taste but adds nutrients, and enough water or unsweetened almond milk to blend it smooth. This gives you protein, fiber, healthy fats, vitamins, and minerals all in one quick meal. Option 4. For those who prefer savory breakfasts, a slice of whole grain toast topped with smoked salmon or canned sardines, mashed avocado, and a poached egg. This is nutrient-dense, high in omega-3 fatty acids, and provides lasting energy. The key is finding combinations that work for your taste preferences and your schedule. Not everyone has time to cook elaborate breakfasts every morning, and that's okay. Even something as simple as a serving of cottage cheese mixed with berries and walnuts can be a perfectly balanced meal that you can prepare in under 2 minutes. Now let's talk about timing, because this matters more than most people realize. Try to eat breakfast within 60 to 90 minutes of waking up. Waiting too long can cause your morning blood sugar to climb higher as your liver keeps releasing glucose, with nothing coming in to signal it to stop. On the flip side, eating immediately after waking, before you've had your water and done some light movement, might not give you the best results either. The ideal sequence is water first, then movement, then breakfast. This approach works with your body's natural rhythms rather than against them. Portion size is another consideration. Even healthy foods can raise blood sugar if you eat too much at once. A balanced breakfast for most people managing diabetes should be in the range of 300 to 400 calories, depending on your size, activity level, and individual needs. This isn't about restricting yourself to the point of hunger. It's about finding the right amount that satisfies you and keeps your blood sugar stable until your next meal. One mistake I see often is people thinking they can load up on fruit at breakfast because it's natural and healthy. While fruit does provide vitamins, minerals, and fiber, it also contains natural sugars that can spike blood sugar if eaten in large quantities or without protein and fat to slow absorption. A better approach is to include a small serving of berries, which are lower in sugar and high in antioxidants, rather than a large banana or a big glass of fruit juice. If you love fruit, pair it with some nuts or yogurt to balance the impact. Speaking of juice, let me be clear about this. Fruit juice, even 100% juice with no added sugar, is not a good choice for people with diabetes. When you juice a fruit, you remove most of the fiber and concentrate the sugar, which leads to rapid blood sugar spikes. A glass of orange juice can have as much sugar as a can of soda and will hit your bloodstream just as fast. Eat the whole fruit instead, or better yet, choose berries or green apples, which have a lower glycemic impact. Let me tell you about Linda, a woman in her early 60s who came to understand this principle the hard way. She'd been having what she thought was a healthy breakfast, a store-bought bran muffin, and a glass of cranberry juice for years. She couldn't understand why her morning blood sugar numbers were consistently high and why she felt exhausted by 10 o'clock every morning. When she finally started checking her blood sugar 1 hour after breakfast, she was shocked to see it shooting up to well over 200. She made some changes. She switched to a breakfast of 2 scrambled eggs with sautéed vegetables, a slice of whole grain toast with almond butter, and some fresh strawberries on the side. Within a week, her post-breakfast numbers dropped into a much healthier range, and she noticed she had steady energy all morning. 3 months later, her A1C test showed significant improvement. Her doctor was able to reduce her diabetes medication dosage. She told me the hardest part wasn't changing what she ate. It was letting go of the belief that what she'd been eating was already healthy. That's a common struggle. We get attached to certain foods or routines, and it feels overwhelming to change them. But here's the thing, you don't have to overhaul everything at once. Start by adding protein to whatever breakfast you're currently eating. Then work on increasing fiber. Then start being more mindful about portions and the types of carbohydrates you choose. Small, gradual changes tend to stick better than trying to change everything overnight. Also, remember that everyone's body responds a little differently to different foods. What works perfectly for one person might not work quite as well for another. This is where checking your blood sugar after meals becomes valuable information. Test your blood sugar 1 to 2 hours after eating different breakfast combinations and keep notes on what you ate and what your numbers were. Over time, you'll start to see patterns that help you understand what works best for your specific body. If you take diabetes medications, especially insulin, or medications that increase insulin production, be aware that changing your diet can affect how much medication you need. As your blood sugar control improves with these dietary changes, you might actually need less medication. Never adjust your medications on your own, but do keep your doctor informed about the changes you're making so they can monitor your progress and adjust prescriptions if needed. One last thing about breakfast. Don't forget about medications and supplements you might be taking. Many people with diabetes take metformin, and this medication can sometimes cause digestive upset, especially if taken on an empty stomach. Taking it with a substantial, balanced breakfast can help minimize those side effects. If you take vitamins or other supplements, some are better absorbed with food, while others might interfere with medication absorption. Check with your pharmacist about the best timing for your specific medications. All right, let's pull this all together. 3 morning habits. First, drinking water to rehydrate your system and support kidney function. Second, engaging in light physical activity to activate your muscles and improve insulin sensitivity. Third, eating a balanced breakfast with adequate fiber, protein, and healthy fats to stabilize blood sugar for hours. None of these strategies alone is a miracle cure. Diabetes is a complex condition that usually requires a multifaceted approach, including medication, regular monitoring, stress management, adequate sleep, and ongoing medical care. But these 3 morning habits work together to set a strong foundation that makes everything else easier. Think about it this way. Managing diabetes is like steering a ship. Small adjustments to the rudder early in the journey can determine whether you end up miles off course or right on target by the end of the day. These morning habits are your rudder adjustments. The beauty of focusing on mornings is that it gives you a sense of control and accomplishment early in the day. When you start your day by doing 3 things that you know are beneficial for your health, it creates positive momentum. You're more likely to make other healthy choices throughout the day. It's a psychological advantage that shouldn't be underestimated. I want to be realistic with you, though. Change takes time. If you've been doing things a certain way for years, or even decades, shifting to new habits isn't going to happen overnight. Give yourself at least 3 to 4 weeks to establish a new routine before judging whether it's working. Your body needs time to adjust, and you need time to work out the logistics of fitting these habits into your specific life circumstances. You might face obstacles. Maybe you're not a morning person, and the thought of doing anything before coffee sounds miserable. Maybe you have mobility limitations that make physical activity challenging. Maybe you live alone and cooking breakfast for one person feels like too much effort. These are all valid concerns, and there are workarounds for each of them. If you're not a morning person, start with just one habit, probably the water, which requires the least effort. Once that feels automatic, add the second. If mobility is an issue, work with a physical therapist to find safe exercises you can do, even if it's just seated movements or gentle stretches. If cooking feels like too much, plan your breakfast the night before or choose options that require minimal preparation. And remember, you don't have to be perfect. There will be mornings when you oversleep, when you have an early appointment, when you're not feeling well, or when you just don't feel like sticking to the routine. That's okay. One off morning doesn't erase the benefits of all the other mornings when you did follow through. The goal is consistency over time, not perfection every single day. Before I wrap up, I want to remind you that this information is educational in nature and is not a substitute for personalized medical advice from your healthcare provider. Everyone's diabetes is a little different, and what works well for most people might need to be adjusted for your particular situation, especially if you have other health conditions or take multiple medications. Talk to your doctor about these strategies. Show them this information if you want. Most physicians will be supportive of these evidence-based lifestyle approaches because they know that medication alone isn't usually enough to manage diabetes effectively. The most successful outcomes happen when people combine appropriate medical treatment with sustainable lifestyle changes. If you found this information helpful, I'd love to hear about your experience trying these morning habits. Drop a comment below and let me know which one you're going to start with. Are you going to focus on hydration first? Maybe you're ready to try the morning movement? Or perhaps you're most excited about revamping your breakfast routine. And if you know someone who's dealing with diabetes or prediabetes and could benefit from hearing this information, please share this video with them. These conditions affect millions of Americans, and the more we can support each other with practical, science-based strategies, the better. If you'd like more content about managing diabetes, heart health, and staying active and healthy as you get older, make sure you're subscribed to this channel and click the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. I regularly share tips and information specifically designed for people over 50 who want to take charge of their health. Thanks so much for watching today. Take care of yourself, and remember that small, consistent actions done daily can add up to remarkable changes in your health over time. You've got this.